welcome to the Tech Coaches Podcast. My name is Bill.
And I am Fer.
We're here to talk to you about our new business, the Tech Coaches. And Fer, why don't you go ahead and get started with this? We're going to speak a little bit in depth about the program that we have, how we got into the business, why we believe that this would matter for you. And with that being said, I'll let you get started.
Before we dive in, I want you to know a bit more about us. So we're going to start with the host introductions. Bill, would you like to start on that?
Sure. So I am originally from Kentucky. I think it was a 3-stoplight town that I was originally from. Definitely did not expect to be in the tech business, but when I graduated from college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And at the time, my Japanese teacher suggested that I go to Japan, and this was 1995. And this was back when the internet first started to become something a little more than AOL and CompuServe and Prodigy, and I think there was another one. And I had to essentially learn how to use the internet, and that was the cheapest way to communicate with my friends. And then I had to start teaching my friends how to email me, because back then you had to go to like a university computer to do the email. So I stayed a year, I left, and I started a new position at Kentucky's very first internet company. And so it was neat because I had an offer to work for a company in Lexington and an offer to work for a company in Louisville. I chose the one in Lexington because I wanted to be home after being abroad for a year. And within about a year, a friend of mine that I grew up with encouraged me to leave and start my own company, because I was essentially cleaning up all of some businesses. And I'll thank the man that gave me the job, but I think he would also thank me for cleaning up some of his handshake deals that were never on paper. And that started my career. It was sort of by accident. And when I'd announced to some of my customers that I was leaving, they said, "Hey, can we come with you?" Luckily for me, one of the guys that was a customer became one of my best friends in the whole world. It was awesome, and great friendship there. And then all of the other companies that came along with me were sort of happy to do so, and that's what started what became Transdigital Solutions way back in the day. So if you look at my LinkedIn, you'll see that it's there. Sold it to a managed service provider, which I think they've now got 7 locations, maybe even more, and worked there for about 18 months. But I decided I would rather work for myself, so I left a little early and started to do sales and marketing consulting, because I grew my business. And at the time, I didn't even know what I was doing in the sense of running a company. I will tell you that I learned a few lessons the hard way. And when I did that, it was really great, because I finally realized I was consulting with people to figure out how to use technology to solve some of their business issues, whether it's a problem that they had or it's some sort of new business branch or something else that they wanted to do. And by this point, we had passed the whole .com crash. So the internet was becoming what I'll phrase as a little bit more realistic. So did that for a little while, and then ended up purchasing one of my clients' brands with my then business partner. And we turned that around, we grew it, and we sold it off after 4 or 5 years. We did a bunch of digital marketing, social media strategy. That's another item that you'll see on the LinkedIn profile. And then when we created the latest company, Rocker, which the Tech Coaches is one of the brands of Rocker. So Rocker's our legal entity, but we're going by the Tech Coaches name because this is something that I've been thinking about for a very long time, and I'll get into that in a minute. But my friend, business partner, confidant, etc. So we operated that business for years, had a great time together, still do, get along great, and really happy about that. But what that led me to, unfortunately, about 3 years ago, I had a stroke, and we all know about the U.S. healthcare system and it being a little bit different. So as we're recording this, I sit with Fernanda here in Merida, Mexico, because I was told I would never walk again, move my arm, do all kinds of other stuff. And I found so much wonderful therapy, people, culture, etc. here in Merida. And so moved down here so that I could concentrate on growing the Tech Coaches business and also some of the therapy. So from a personal standpoint, it was a big move, naturally, moving countries. It wasn't my first time, but this is a for real thing. So For those of you wondering, do I have things in Lexington? The answer is yes. Some of the stuff is in my mother's spare bedroom, and the other is in the office that I share with who is still my business partner in Lexington. And so that's how I got started. And most of our business has come through referral in the last couple of years, maybe less, 20 plus years, has all come through referral. And so again, I'm going to reference LinkedIn. If you take a look at the LinkedIn recommendations, you'll see why it's come through referral. And that continues to be the case to this day. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Fer, and then I'll let you tell the story after you give your background about how we met and how we worked remotely first, because that we know is going to come up as something that needs to be managed. So with that being said, go ahead and jump in.
So I'm Fer. I was born here in Merida, Mexico. I had a normal life. I didn't have any experience in IT. So technically for you, I'll be you on those in these videos. I'm going to be learning with you. I'm going to have the same experience as you technically are going to be having with us. Every time Bill is showing you something, I'm going to have like my first time experience with you. So you're going to be seeing everything like that here. But let me tell you a bit more about me. I'm a single mom of one dog. And I went through a lot of things. Like I started university for animation. In the end, I wanted to get a scholarship. So I left university and didn't get the scholarship, but I did get my hands on makeup, which is like a totally different thing than what we're doing now. But after that, I got into a low voltage company in the US because I had really good English, and that was the only thing they were like requesting at that time. It was during COVID. So my first office job was from my house doing home office, which was like a really weird experience, but I learned a lot about management, leadership. I never knew or noticed, I will say, that during my life, I like dipped my feet a lot into leadership, but never noticed it was something that I liked that much. So when I got into this new company that I was working at, I started like working on doing a bit of the management of the area I was at. My boss at that time was like a mentor to me in the way that he was teaching me about how to handle people, how to handle like confrontation and hard issues with others in the company. And that kind of led me to the story I was going to tell how Bill and I met. When I was at that job, I decided that I needed like a second job, that it was going to be half time. And I was doing a bit of a research what people were looking for, and that's where I found Bill at Indeed. Great thing, Indeed. Thank you. But they're like he was looking for someone here in Mexico. It was more about in the management side of like a bit of the work of the company, but also like on the personal side. So when we had our first call, I always told him like I don't know where I got the confidence that I had, but we talked about what he wanted to do with the company, what he was looking for. He also asked me about me, and I just turned around to him and told him, I'm the person for this job. And let me tell you, if you hire me, I'll make that happen and anything else. We talked about like our desires of what we wanted a company to be, and also like the people working there, how they should feel, how they should be like managed and also rewarded for what they're doing. So you also will be seeing a little bit of this during our podcast, but kind of that is the way we started working together. And from there, like we did, it was like remote work. He was in Kentucky and I was here. We were like working together online. He was training me online, which was hard for both of us, I would say. But it was a really great experience. And a lot of the reactions you will be seeing from me, we had those reactions at the start because when we started working together, I didn't know anything at all about IT. Like I did know how to use a computer. If you're a kid that grew up with the internet at the same time, you did a lot of stuff on the internet. I told Bill I was on the worst parts of the internet, just like dipping my feet there, like learning a bit more about how to download stuff that I shouldn't have downloaded, like games and things like that. So that is where Bill came in. Like he started teaching me about the importance of passwords. For example, I use the same password everywhere, or maybe had like five like different variations of that password. And the worst part is I do know that some of my family shares some of the passwords with me too. So we had like a combined password between all my family, and I never knew that that was such a high risk of hacking. I also learned about the importance of having like the emails account you have. If they're paid, they're much better because of the security you may have from those. But don't worry about it. I still have mine that is not paid, that is free. Bill also has his. But I'll let you continue with the.
Sure. So one of the things that we got to do, as she mentioned, we started where it was at a part-time position, but then once I decided that I was going to move to Merida full-time, we also had the discussion about Fernando coming on full-time. And our goal is that the business continues to grow and we have people both in the United States and in Mexico able to do things. And I'm about to explain what the Tech Coaches is and how it kind of came about and what the last few years of work for me were like personally, which helped me come up with this idea. So for those of you who already have internal IT support, or you have a hybrid model where it's some internal people, or maybe just somebody wearing like the IT cap, and then you have external support, or you have a hybrid, that is absolutely fine, and you are more than welcome to join us on any of these events. Our target market is let's say the corporate exec whose work they're 40 to 50 something and they've decided they want to leave the corporate world and go out and become a consultant on their own. That's the solopreneur. We've also got small businesses or organizations, I should say, because some of our clients are associations and for some reason they use the term business a little bit differently, but they are legally incorporated, so they're businesses. But they don't have anyone generally who handles the IT unless it's a person who typically does what we call break fix. You get a phone call when something breaks, but you're not really looking out for them in the future, not doing proactive work. They see, hey, my computer's not working or we're having a problem connecting to a printer, something like that. That's what we call break fix. So we're adding a little bit different model to that. And again, I'll get to that in a second. And then the third market is the executive that might be a part of a company that's 1,000 people strong, but they may not have support at their home. And so what we're trying to provide is that level of coverage on home machines as well, so that they know that their kids, their own machines, and particularly since we've got this growing elderly population, education about what to do to protect people who are getting older and might not know that text message is a bad text message and they should not respond to it. So those are our three main markets that we're going after. Some people may think it's a little crazy to go after some of those. Some may not. What we're not going after, and I do think this is important to talk about, is we're not trying to land the company with 1,000 employees. We're not even trying to land the company with 50 employees because we have relationships with companies that we can refer out to take care of those things. So we're not trying to staff for something like that. The tool set that we have would work for companies like that. But what we'll do is if someone continues to grow and they grow beyond, say, 20 machines or 20 users, then we'll hand them off to one of our partners that, generally speaking, is in the Kentucky area. But if not, we'll find partners that are in your geographic area to be able to support you, and we'll do a smooth handoff. Now, let me tell you a little bit about how this came about. I present at conferences on a regular basis. And one of the things that there are a couple things that came up as themes in these conferences. Number one, I was generally limited to about an hour to explain a number of things. And not everyone said this. So we had furious note takers as they were going through, and everybody always got a recording in the PowerPoint slides. But one of the common themes was this is like a lot of stuff in a fire hose because these were most of the people who are our current target market. So one of the reasons that I started the Tech Coaches is to make things non-acronym. So it's not going to be two IT people speaking in acronyms and you're wondering what foreign language are they speaking. It's also something that is achievable and actionable. So we're not going to inundate you with things that must be done immediately right away or the sky will fall. So that was one item. The other is I've answered the same question about a number of, let's say, not even a number, one technology item like a password manager. I've probably answered questions about those 100 times in the past year. So instead of doing that, Fernanda and I are going to start doing some education and more training on these items and release it on a frequent enough basis to keep everyone interested. And it will be a part of people's onboarding, even in our free program, but not so frequently that it is that fire hose, because we don't want someone to drown from this information and then just mentally turn off and say, we don't want to do it. So with this being said, the other reason I put together this program is because I want it to be simple, achievable, and actionable for that target audience that we mentioned. And then at that point, even on our free program, the software that we have is in monitoring mode. And so you don't have to pay anything for it. We install it and it will tell you, hey, here are some problems that are on your machine that you need to address. Here are some things that need to be taken care of. And we even do an initial security and system assessment and provide that to you after a 2-week period. There's no cost for it. We let our software run for 2 weeks. It's in monitoring mode only. And then what it's going to do is it's going to tell you, here are things that need to be addressed. Now, in the beginning, it might seem a little overwhelming, and I think you've mentioned that before. But what is really neat about it is we'll tell you what's important to solve right away. And 9 times out of 10, your computer's older, you don't have it updated, you don't have products that are up to date and doing the things that need to be done. So there are going to be a lot of recommendations like that. Luckily, a lot of these, using the tool set that we have, are easy to fix. And so if you want to move to one of our paid plans, you use all that software, and in the very first plan, you get all of that, and then you only pay for support as you need it. So it's in 30-minute chunks. And then from that point, it's per user. So if you're an organization, you've got 5 users, there's a fee. And if you're at our very first paid level, you pay a certain fee. And then at that point, it's pay per support. So you don't pay anything. It's just like our free plan unless you want the support. Then at our next level up, it's all the same tools. It's additional support though. So we include that training. So if you've got 5 people, we include 5 times 30 minutes free, quote unquote, since it is a paid program, every month. And then at that point, you're operational, and anything beyond that time would be billed. And of course, there are exceptions like, hey, we're opening a new office and we're hiring 16 new people. That's going to be a project. That might actually move you out of the Tech Coaches area if you were growing like that. And at that point, I might introduce you to one of our partners. And then at the top level, it's everything that I mentioned before, plus the policies and procedures that you would have in an employee handbook, and an onboarding guide, and a number of other things that are probably going to be required by your insurance provider to protect data, privacy, and other things like that. I've done a number, and I forgot to even mention that. I've done a number of technology insurance applications for companies that are as small as 3 people all the way up to, I think, 4,000 people. And we work with the insurance companies. We don't sell the insurance. We work with the companies to make sure that everything is covered, because what generally happens in that situation is somebody tosses that application over to the IT people, and that's not all the data you've got. There's HR, there's sales data, there's intellectual property, and other things. So the Tech Coaches is going to help all these companies that we talked about in the target market. One item that I do want to point out is we're only going to do a few one-off consulting items per quarter. And the reason why is because I mentioned earlier, a lot of the business that we get is through referral. And I do enjoy doing some of those things, but my goal is to have Fernanda take over the tech coaches in a couple of years. So, hold us to this. We're going to have to put a date on this when we go
I'm going
live.
to save this on a USB in my house, like locked down. That way, if Bill decides to retract this, you
Yes.
are my.
Yes, the whole world will know. Yes, but I'm going to continue to do some of the consulting things. But I'm only going to do a couple of those per quarter, just because they're fun, and every now and then our clients need that level of help. But it's not going to interfere with growing our business.
So just to keep it easy, simple, quick, we're doing this podcast to create awareness for everyone. And this goes more for the individuals. Like, it doesn't matter if you work in a big company or a small company, the podcast is going to be educational content. But if you're now part of the market, we are like putting the tech coaches for, these are the packages we have. Um, as Bill said, like it feels like a fire hose, you said, because it is a lot of information, but we're going to try to keep it simple, easy for anyone to understand. So you have to know that you don't need to do all the steps today. You can go step by step. You can do just one change at a time. So it's not as overwhelming or tiring as it could be. But the importance is that you start, because the change is going to be done by yourself. But if you come with us, we're going to do the change for you.
Yes. Now, I will move forward. Fernando was generous enough to make a script for this. And one of the items, just as an example, what we're going to talk about right now is an intro, if you will, to one of the topics, and that is IT training. Now, I know, because I have had to sit in it with my clients, how boring compliance and security training can be. And so what we're looking at is making IT training more accessible and understandable. So as we publish this, we're going to have what I'll call our regular podcast that we do, and it's not going to always talk about, hey, what can you buy from us? It's going to be educational. So we're going to talk about some of these things, like why you need a password manager, pros and cons of the ones that you have, etc. In addition to that, though, and this is where it blends the business with the personal. So when I go in and give a seminar, or when I did before, what would happen is people wouldn't necessarily realize before they came that a lot of what I explained had to do with their personal lives as much as their business life. And so when I talked about something like how to notice whether this is a phishing email, they would 9 times out of 10 say their phishing emails, they got way more of them on their personal mail, and now, of course, via SMS, through text messaging, than they did on their business accounts. And so we're going to talk about how you can see what those are, especially with all the new AI, because frankly, I got a phone call the other day and I couldn't tell whether it was AI or not. It was a little freaky because it was so real and these voices are so natural. So we're going to talk about a couple of things related to how do you discover what is a phishing email, or what's called smishing as well. And we won't get into acronyms. We will make it fun, though, and then this will also help you qualify, if your company requires it, for mandatory security training, so that if you do have cyber liability insurance or something like that, we will be providing that, and that comes, again, even in our free program. So with that being said, one of the other items Fer's got is struggles with technology. So where do people struggle? So I've got what I'll call a special episode for that. And I've queried a couple of people who are in the IT business, actually doing the tech work at different sizes. And so we're going to do a full episode on that one. But I will say most people get frustrated because they don't want to be in IT. They want to get their job done. They want to have their free time with their family. They want to spend time doing things with their friends. They don't want to spend time waiting for a computer to update. They don't want to get frustrated by 18 new settings or some privacy disclosure that they don't understand.
I mean, I think there's nothing more annoying than when you're at your work and you need to finish a document or do anything, and when you turn on the computer, it is updating and it's going to take 3 hours to update. And the thing is, not all of us are able to leave work on time. So sometimes you need to stay late to finish the work you're not able to because your computer is not like at the best situation it could be. So kind of what Bill said we're going to be teaching you here is stuff like that, how we can help you take the best steps to avoid those things from happening.
Yes.
A lot of the things we're going to be talking about today are going to be like brief introductions to the topics we're going to be talking about, how to keep your information safe, how people can take the information you upload online. It could be your pictures, it could be your Instagram caption for the picture you're putting up, the answers on the questions you get for CAPTCHA or for two-factor authentication, how that information is easy to get online if you just know where to look and if you are able to access those accounts. So a little bit on the topics we're going to get more into it is, as Bill said before, like employee struggles, how to make IT a bit less intimidating for normal people. Because as I told you before, I don't have the experience. So sometimes when I read some stuff, when I'm doing the research, because my computer is not working, I don't know how to do the process, like how I don't know how to open the command screen so I can do changes and stuff like that. But sometimes I don't understand what are the steps I'm following. So we're going to make it easier. We're going to make it more fun. And we're going to make it in a way that anyone can watch this, even your parents, your grandparents, your friends, your kids. The point is that everyone knows and is aware of the importance of all these steps we're going to be teaching you, because this is a day by day thing. Like, this is for all the time. Everyone knows we're at the point in life where half of our life is online. Like, all our information is online, and it's going to keep getting more to that point where everything is online. Now, I don't even carry cash anymore because everything is on my phone.
Yeah. One of the items that we talked about is the things that you might know or might not know about. So we're going to inject fun into doing this. And a lot of what we talk about is going to be, just as Fernanda said, conversational. So she's got a lot of the questions, and we wanted to kind of pause some of the items that she's learning so that we can do this, and then you get to benefit from it. Ask those questions. We're going to respond in the comments. The other thing that, and I'll give you an example of one tip that's kind of fun. So for those of you who get documents from other people, most of you use Microsoft Word. You can go into Word and view the properties of a document, and you can see who the original author was. And what has amazed me is how many documents that you think someone wrote, and then you look at those properties and you can see that that document came from another entity. So there's a lot of things like that that we're going to have that's fun. I don't want to necessarily say sneaky, but it will let you be a little bit more informed than you might be right now. And also, if you think about it, when you put information like that in systems, that your information can be shared, reused, et cetera. Another one is going to be, there's a website that's out there, and I forget what name it is. We'll have to Google it and put it in the comments. It is how long it takes to read the terms of service that no one reads by sites like Facebook, Instagram, et cetera, all those others. And we'll tell you some of the things, especially as it relates to AI, that you might not know where your data may or may not be going. So it's not only going to be just how you can work with the tech coaches. It's going to be information that we believe will benefit you personally and professionally. So we've gotten a couple of real life scenarios and success stories. So
this is what Bill has told me. It is horror stories. I told him I don't think they're horror stories because they're real life horror stories. So this is so you are aware of what could be the real life situations that someone could go through if they don't take care of this side of their lives. So, Bill, could you tell us a short one so we don't make it
Sure.
as long for the people, but scary enough
Oh,
for people to decide keep
I
watching?
can give you three or four quickly. And this first one I'm going to generalize because it's happened to a number of clients. Is they did not set up multi-factor authentication when they should, and so the first area that everyone thinks if they get hacked, and right now as we are recording this, there is a gigantic attack coming out of China for people that don't have multi-factor authentication set up and they're running on Microsoft 365. So if you don't have multi-factor authentication set up, contact whoever provides your IT folks or maybe us, and then we can get all of that taken care of for you. So that's the first one. But the other one that really surprised me is how many people don't set up online banking multi-factor authentication. Now, some banks require that, but they'll require it only to log in, not necessarily to transfer money.
Okay.
And so I've had a couple of clients have their accounts get compromised. People could log in because they stole some data. They didn't have the multi-factor turned on, and that wasn't the big deal. The big deal was they didn't have the wiring or the ACH protection turned on. And then the big one is they didn't have alerts when that happened. So they didn't know the money even left their account until they went to go pay a bill or they went to go to a restaurant, and it was like, whoa, what happened? Why is this declined? So that's one example of it. Another one that is unfortunately related to a lot of folks that are, let's say, I don't know the exact stats. I'm going to say between the ages of 14 and let's say 25 or 30, is that people reuse passwords. And one of the worst items that I had is I had to act as an expert witness for a young lady who sent some things she shouldn't have sent through her phone to a, what at the time it was a boyfriend, and when I got involved, it was an ex-boyfriend. And he had the username and password for her Facebook account as well as her iCloud. And he then impersonated her, blocked her out of the account, and we all know how tough it is to get any of these large organizations like Facebook. They're bigger than most countries, so you're not going to get someone on the phone. And basically, I had to record some things that could be put in front of a judge to say that this poor young woman was taken advantage of by a guy. And this was before AI, before the deep fake stuff happened. So now you could take those photos and you could actually do even worse things with them. So we're going to provide some education about that, things that you may or may not want to know. And then, of course, if you've got kids or parents who are aging, might not be as into some of this, you might have to be the one that decides, do you want to share this information with them or do you just want to take care of it for them? So those are two quick items that I'll mention. What we don't want to do is scare people to death. In fact, one company that I speak for introduces me because they've hired me a couple of years in a row as the guy that scares us but then makes us feel comfortable. So I don't want to scare anyone with these. What I want to do is help you prepare and also prevent. So that's really important for us as we move forward. We're also going to talk about some really good stories.
But people should be scared of you.
They should be scared to a certain extent, but what we're going to try to do is mitigate that so that we make things realistic and achievable, for sure.
We want you scared not so you come to us. We want you scared so you start taking care of your stuff, your information, your devices, your accounts. It's mostly not, I know we use the word scary and horror stories, but it's more like in a way of we want you to be aware of what could happen if you don't take the steps you need to take. You don't even have to come and work with us. If you want to, as Bill said, it's going to be really easy, really quick as a light switch. But if you don't, at least we hope that the information we'll keep sharing here, the tips, all the how to use certain applications or devices that you have, how to use them in the best way possible to keep yourself safe and also your family, your friends, your company, because it just takes one person to be able to open like many others, because how much information we may have from people on our circle, as Bill was telling on the story of the girl, like how many of our partners don't have private information that we wouldn't want anyone else to see.
Mhm.
So there must be ways you're able to protect that information in a way that is not as easy accessible as it could be if you don't follow the steps and
Yeah,
tips.
there was a great idea that a friend of mine proposed the other day, because being down here in Mexico, for those of you who may not know, a tremendous amount of activity is still done via paper. And I opened a bank account the other day. I don't know how many times did I have to sign my name? 20?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
just two of the times we went there, we went like there 3 or 4 times.
Yes.
Two of them he had to sign 9 times each. And the worst part is Bill and I talked about it on that day, but we were sitting next to the banker and we could see pages of other people where we could see their passport copies and
Yes.
a lot of really private information from that
Yes.
person.
So when I think about that, um, one of the questions I ask whenever we do a consulting engagement is, how fast do you want me to put that throttle down? So how fast do you want to accomplish these changes? And for some people, it might be like, I need to solve this right away. I don't want to deal with paper anymore. I want to go completely electronic. And that was a situation that a lot of organizations had when COVID happened. They had to go completely electronic. Now, there are others that might typically be a little more mature and a little bit more resistant to change. Sometimes those are the same, sometimes they're different. So if you don't necessarily want to get rid of your paper like the bank
Yeah.
doesn't, or maybe even legally can't, then what we can do is we can explain some ways that you can keep your paper. And if you're in full compliance, whether it's legal or whether it's just the way we like to do it, or whether it's just, I'm not ready to change and get rid of my paper, but we can explain why it might be of benefit to a bank or to an organization as to why you should go ahead and keep your paper, but we're going to start scanning everything and we're going to start using these tools, because most of our clients don't understand how many tools that they are paying for and underutilizing. That's another area that we're going to get into in our education. For example, right now, and I don't know, I think I've shown this to you, but if not, I can see everything that Fernanda is working on, not because I'm the admin for our organization, but because we are coworkers. And inside Microsoft 365, I can see what she's been working on. So if your company does not configure things properly, then everyone can start to see what people are spending time on, how much they're spending time on it, et cetera, et cetera. So again, putting that throttle down, I'm ready to make a change fast, or I'm not ready to make a change, that's okay. We're going to give you options as we talk about these things. So again, they're not overwhelming and people are not drinking from the fire hose.
And as Bill said, like some people have that resistance. I have to say that Bill has always told me about it, but I do have a little bit of the resistance to leave my paper because I love to keep my pretty agenda, using my pink and colorful pens to do all that. But you don't have to only do it there. Like I keep both my own agenda on paper to keep things more in my brain, but I also do it online. So Bill is also aware of the stuff that it's happening. So I will put it more like it's a transitional time where you need to start like taking one step by another step and then go little by little to start creating that change. Because I mean, I think it's human nature to sometimes be afraid of change.
Yes.
And it's more like the strength you start growing inside of, if I decide to do that change, how much I go by that change. Like I can go just one step at a time. I'm going to start with, let's say you go to the free trial we have on the package for the tech coaches. You can start just by learning about it and just doing the free trial. I want to know what issues my computer have. Maybe I don't have the money yet to fix those issues, but at least I can be aware and I could take some steps to help myself avoid anything like the horror stories we tell from happening. And from there, like little by little, you can go doing then 2 steps, then 3 steps, and you will get to a point where you can be safe and secure in your own house with your devices. And you won't feel afraid of someone stealing your information and creating many passwords to steal anything you have.
Oh yes. Today I got a bill from an insurance company I don't have anymore. And somehow they had my address here in Merida. So the zip code for Merida is actually the same zip code as a city in Oregon in the United States.
Oh.
So when I first saw it, I saw my name
And the zip
and the zip code, but it didn't think about it being here. I thought about the city and I thought, has my identity been hacked? Right? So that's an example of where you have to kind of let's not panic and I'm going to use this as an example in a future episode where we talk about these things. Now, before we go, I do want to talk about the program because I would be remiss and actually not be doing my job if I didn't talk about the program that we've created. So the process is very simple. We schedule a call. We talk about how many machines you have, what your goals are, what your hopes are, things you want to avoid. And then if you're ready at that point, we will give you 2 pieces of software to install. They will not change anything on your machine. They are on monitoring mode only, okay? And after 2 weeks, what will happen is we will have reports that will show us things that need to be addressed. And you don't have to be the pro here. We can tell you based on the things that you've described that are important to you, what you must have, what you don't care about, etc. And then combine that with our knowledge of what is important that you might want to care about and might not know why. And then we'll have a follow-up call, and there's our low-hanging fruit that we need to take care of right away. Then there are the things that we need to do over time. And if you want to become a client at that point, you are more than welcome to become a client at that point. Then we can talk about our paid plans. We've got 3 of those paid plans. However, if you want to stay on that free plan, the software still stays on your computer at no cost, and we never access it. We only contact you if you contact us and say, hey, Bill or Fer, I need assistance with this. And at that point, we'll naturally give you the option to go to one of our paid plans, which is more affordable than the support at the free level. Because at the free level, there is a fee that's a little more expensive than if you're on a recurring monthly fee with us, or I should say subscription with us. So that's at the free level. And you get that software is yours as long as you are in our email marketing system, okay? I should say our customer database, but it's also our email marketing system. Then we've got 3 other programs, and those 3 other programs do essentially the same things. They will have software included. It's paid for. It does do the remediation. We will do the patching of your machines. We will alert you of anything that might be bad that you might not want to have on your computer, like an Excel file with passwords in it. I'm sure no one watching this has that at all. So we'll alert you about things like that need to be taken care of. And then we'll also consolidate that patching so you have minimal downtime to spend more time either working or with friends and family. And then that support, if you need it at that point, it's paid in 30-minute increments. And if you've got 5 employees, it's 5 times 30 for that 150. And if we spend more than 150 minutes in any calendar month, then yes, there will be a bill. But again, it's billed in those 30-minute increments. If not, then there's no more that you need to pay. So if you really don't need much, that program is a really good one to get started on.
And also, that also includes a password manager.
Yes.
It also includes training. It could be through Slack, through YouTube, or there may be other ways. But those trainings are really good for the employees of the company they all need to have the same training as the owner so everyone can keep the company safe. And also something else I would like to add is um, we also will request pre-approval if we spend more than the time needed for the ticketing.
For sure.
So in case someone of the company needs help and the time that you had for available for the people there, it's gone, we will go first to you and be like, okay, this person does have this question. Would that be approved? It's going to be a bit more time that you don't have anymore. So that way also you are aware if it's needed to have a bit more time bills. That way it's not like a surprise bill that you weren't aware of. Because
Yes.
I think something anyone could say will hate is something that you weren't aware you needed to pay and then your budget is out of it
Hmm.
because it doesn't go with what you had before.
Yes. Our third level also is those 30 minutes are included, and that naturally there's a little bit more per user per month on the subscription fee to cover that support because we're planning on supporting you for sure. And you get the monthly reports and everything else that we mentioned earlier. And then at the fourth level, that's one for an organization that typically needs everything handled for them on the support side, but also policies, procedures, and all of the items that are necessary in order to make sure you are compliant, because, and this is especially important for compliance oriented industries or organizations that have a lot of private data like law firms, physicians offices, insurance companies, et cetera, where they've got private data and they need to really make sure that they've got all their I's dotted and T's crossed. So that's at the top level of the program. And then we'll also help you make a budget for IT, and that will include your first year, which sometimes, or I should say often with our clients early on, that includes purchasing new machines. And if you do need help financing there, we've got some partners that can help you with that. Otherwise, the budget then goes out, and whether you do a formal budget or not, we will do an annualized budget with you for IT. And the reason why we believe that's important is because we, as first said, don't want to be the entity that surprises you. We want this IT to be as easy as a light switch, predictable. And then the final thing I'll say before she does our outro, if you will, is one of the items that we're really we've agreed upon that's going to be different is we're not going to be a company that does back and forth email tickets. We are going to do back and forth emails as needed, but when you say you've got a problem and you need help, we are going to get on the phone with you and try to solve it on the first try. Now, sometimes that's not possible because there needs to be a change or there needs to be an update applied or something like that. But if possible, we are going to be on the phone with you, potentially remoting into your machine only with your permission, and then make sure that we get it solved. And before we wrap up the call, as long as that is solved, then we're going to ask if there's anything else that you need or any other questions that you have. So we don't want to be the typical tech support company that you really don't want to interact with. We want to make sure you are so happy you're telling your friends and family, hey, you got to work with these guys. It's too easy and their fees are very affordable. I don't have to worry about anything. And if I ever have a problem, it's actually a pleasant engagement. So I want to have so we should set this goal as we need a at least a 4.5% out of 5 rating in the first year. Yes, I know she wants 5. You probably want 10. Yes. So with that being said, that's another one of our big goals. So if there's anything we could ever do that you as a potential customer think, hey, you guys might be missing out on it, I definitely want to know about it so that we can work on getting that improved. So with that being said, I'm going to turn to Fernanda for our outro as we end this session.
Okay, so before we go to the outro, the final thoughts of this episode. First of all, I want to let you know, before I started working with Bill, I was a totally normal person. I used the same password everywhere.
Yeah, I'm not normal. Yeah.
No, but in the way of not knowing about IT and cybersecurity, as I told you before, I went everywhere online. I download stuff from anywhere. I didn't take care of my security and my information as I should have. And it was because I wasn't aware it was something important because we kind of like my generation grew up at the same time with the internet, we didn't know how many safety hazard or issues there could be lurking anywhere. Like even just using my computer without a VPN or an antivirus, how easy it could have been to access my computer and all the information I had there from my family. So after working with him, I started noticing all these things that I never knew were important before. And now I know they're essential. Like I will say it's one of the most important things to do in this date and time, unless aliens come down and turn off all our internet and our devices, like on those movies that we watch. If that happened, then we can put it on the last point of importance. But because that hasn't happened before, it is really important to keep this in mind and start working on how to keep myself safe every day because it is a big window to your life. As people say, the eyes are the windows to the soul. I will say my devices are the windows to my life, to literally my soul, because you can access anything I have there. I have my documents, I have my passwords, I have my money there. So after working together, I noticed how important it was for people to understand that and also to share that information because we're at a point where some people know and others don't. So, how many of our friends, how many of our family have that window open for anyone to access?
Mm-hmm.
And what can I do to help them avoid that from happening? So, my final thoughts on this chapter is we want to teach you about all that. I know on some part we are teaching you about our products, but it's not going to be a sale podcast. It's going to be a podcast where you learn with us about how to keep that everything safe. So I will say if you can't and you're interested and you are able to, come with us to one of our packages.
Yes.
There's also a free one. So even if you don't have the money, if you're interested in knowing what you can do, how easy your computer could be to access, or what changes you need to do, doing the safe one could be a really good option. But if you're able to, we also have the other three packages that Bill told you about. They're really great options. They're amazing. We have seen changes from our clients in how they work, how
Yes.
they are able to just be like, I have this issue. What can I do? Their work don't stop for as long as would stop if they didn't have us in their lives, which I know we're important. I know.
Well, we're also able to help them use get more work per dollar spent on their technology. So most of our clients don't realize what they're actually paying for and how little they're using. So that's going to be part of this educational process as well, is to make the most of what you're spending, because we do have clients who go out and buy things and they didn't know they already have a tool that does exactly what they need. So with that being said, we're going to wrap this up. I would be remiss if I did not tell you to like and subscribe this if you see it on YouTube, or if it's on one of the other social media channels. Please at least give us a like. We're trying to raise awareness because, number one, it's brand new, but number two, we truly believe we're going to be able to help thousands of people by sharing this information. So share it with some friends as well and encourage them to subscribe and follow along. If you are ready for the assessment, just reply here, or if you've got our private contact info, PM us for sure. Let us know that you'd like to have that done. We'll set up a meeting. It'll take a couple of minutes. We'll get that software rolling, and then 2 weeks later, you'll get your initial assessment.
You could also press the button here that our editor is going to put, where you can go to our webpage, and there you'll be able to also send us in the form we have your information so we can reach out to you and we can start also the free package that we offer. As Bill said, please subscribe, like this video, leave us a comment of also which topics you would like to see in other videos in the future. If you have like a security issue or something that happened to you personally and you don't know what to do, you could also leave us a comment. If it's really urgent, you can even reach us
Yes.
in the webpage. There's also our contact information. So you can also reach out directly to us so we can help you fix that. But if it's not an urgent issue, but it's something you would like to know which steps I could take to avoid this from happening or which steps I could take to fix this that is happening, you can leave it also down below in a comment and we'll choose the best ones for one of our chapters in the future. And outside of that, please share it with everyone. It's not only about helping us, it's also about helping the people you love to keep themselves safe.
Yes.
And I think that is it.
All right.
I hope you enjoy your video.
Yes. Adios for now. Thank you all very much for taking the time to watch. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye bye.